Today we are going to talk about unit test cases using JUnit framework. So how JUnit will help us in writing unit test cases for controller layer, service layer, and DAO layer separately. So when we build the application, every layer should be completely decoupled. So you cannot write test cases by considering model, view, controller together. So you need to segregate every layer. Controller layer, write separate test cases. Service layer, write separate test cases. And DAO layer, write separate test cases. So now I'm going to start the writing JUnit test cases with DAO layer first. DAO layer is the most complicated in JUnit framework. So once we are comfortable with database layer test cases, and then we will slowly move into service layer, and then finally we move into controller layer. So let's talk about how we can do on a database layer. Okay, this is fine. Let's see what I want to do. Somewhere I might have even in the Spring Boot, I should have the test cases. So you guys are using Eclipse as an editor for your practice, right? All of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have class that we have created as prior user class. So this is nothing but entity. So now how we can write a test case for this entity object to make sure all your database activities are working fine. To do that, first step is I'm going to use DBUnit. That's another API. It's a framework to write test cases. So to do that, AprilNet schema SQL. So this is what we have generated other day with address, city, user, and all that stuff. So now I'm taking the same thing onto okay. So I'm going to create a new database, new schema, not the database, schema. Full stack tests. So your test cases will run against test schema, and your main application will run against your main schema. So now I'm creating a full stack test schema. Okay. Now I'm going to create a user to access test schema. Password. I will set up this schema on EC2 for you because you don't have access rights on the database. I will create 3 separate schemas for 3 of you.
Okay.
Schema privileges. Schema. Don't worry about this step, whatever the steps that I'm doing. This is only one-time environment setup.
Yeah, like after you create our schema, like we have to connect it to our DAO layer, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll show you that how to connect and all that stuff. So now I'm creating the, okay, it's all done. Okay, the test schema is created. Now, so whatever the Hibernate schema that is generated here, just copy as is and run against your test schema database. This whatever the test schema that I set up here, right? Just like that, and then execute. Okay, after we see. I'll try again to run and see. Prior engine test. Oh, sorry, I tested on a different. So I'm selecting the full stack test as my schema as a default. Now I'm running against that, test schema. Okay, something should be there. Okay. Sample. Each track. Okay. With this we should continue. Right. Toggle it should work. Just a minute. Let's see. No. Okay. I will check why. I mean, because the first part of the script is not working because in the database these are all not yet created. That's why you see, right? Does not exist. I will try. I'll test, after the session and see why it does not work. Why only one record is created? What the hell? Just a minute. Okay. So it's run all the tables, whatever the tables that we have already have the entity mapping. You see, right? All the tables are created with the proper relations. Now, now our test schema is ready with whatever the entity classes that we mapped and generated Hibernate schema SQL. So this you already know how to generate this. And just copied it and pasted on the selected schema and executed it. So now once the test schema is ready, this by doing this means the test schema is ready. Now, once it is ready, the next step is we have to use. I'm gonna create. Now I will start making steps how we can set up DB unit. Now let's see. Where is our test utils? So just like in the same test utils, because this is all part of the test cases. Now I'm creating a new Java class, DB unit export. I mean, this name you can give anything. I'm just making it as a DB unit export. I already have the file. DB unit database export. So I'll just copy my file. I'll explain it. I mean, I copied it from my other project. So DB unit is not there. So DB unit is an another API. It's a dependency just like a Spring. So to use DB unit, you need to add a dependency in form.xml for DB unit. Let's see. So this is the dependency to add DB unit. Let me close other projects. I'm also getting confused if both projects are open. It is too slow. Okay. So now to work with the DB unit, I'm adding the DB unit dependency. This you can get some again from the Maven. So once we have the DB unit dependencies added, now all these should go away because DB unit is now available. So now here, it's again just like another Hibernate schema export that you see. This is again a standalone Java class because we have the main method. And here the username that I have created for test schema is full stack tests. And password is also same. And the schema name is also same. I created it with the same name. And this is the standard MySQL connection. So because it is in local, so that's why I'm connecting to my local. 3306 is the port number, and the schema is full stack test. So this is to we are getting the MySQL driver and connecting to the MySQL driver, and so once the MySQL database connection is done, and then we are doing, these are all pretty standard DB unit operations for MySQL handler. We are trying to get MySQL metadata handler. This is the, coming from, DB unit API. And here you can see here, I'm creating the, database sequence filter. These are all using the database connection. And this is pretty standard lines. I mean, nothing, any change in this. For any project that you use, you will end up having same kind of this one. So now what I'm trying to create is I'm trying to create a data set and then write it to test database DTD file. So for in the resources, I'm trying to generate a DTD file. So what does this mean? So it will try to connect to the test schema based on whatever the table structure that is available here, whatever this table structure and relations. Based on this, our program will connect to the test schema and understand how the tables are created and how the relations are established in the test schema. Based on that, it will generate a DTD file, meaning this file will have how the database definitions are defined. So now let's run this and see how that works. Done. It's not yet done. Why is it taking a long time? Oh, it's done, I think. So now let's see test database. I think the first time it is created file, so that's why I'm refreshing the whole structure. So now in the source, Where the file will be generated? Source, test, resources, and you see here test database.dtd file is generated. So now, if you carefully see here, what it does is data set, meaning these are all the tables available in the test schema. You see 4 different tables are available. So that's the meaning of 4 tables. And now the second one is for each table, how the columns are defined. What are the columns, whether they are null or not null. So now you see here, Prio City is one table which has city ID and name. When we have generated it, we made it as city ID required, meaning not null column. So now if you see in the city here, see here. This is a not null column and name, which is a null column. So when it is null, you will the DTD will be generated as implied. Implied means it is not mandatory column to have a value into that table. So required means you cannot pass null value to the city ID. Similarly, Prio address, you see here, address ID required, rest all implied. And I mean, that's how we configure the entities like that. In the user, you see here, user ID is required, is all not. So now, let's say I will change, I'll change the user entity object, meaning here, first last name column. Now I'm saying nullable false, meaning this column cannot be nullable. So now once we do that, after the entities are changed, we need to regenerate the script using the I1 schema export. Right here, run as, and it will generate the latest Hibernate SQL script based on the entity changes I just made. Now, we come here and see the user table, first name became not null. So copy the same script, go back to the test schema, execute it again. Done. So now come to the DB unit class and run as Java application. So now what it does is it will connect to the test schema again and regenerates the DTD file. Now come here. And now you can see first name is required. So that's how you can generate the DTD from the test schema. So what is the important, why should we generate a DTD file? So we need this file every time we write a test case. The test case will validate against this data. You will get to know how exactly this file will be used while we are writing a test case. I'll explain you how this DTD file can be used. Any questions so far on how to use DB unit to generate a DTD file? You're able to follow through?
Yeah, it's clear.
So generally we use the test framework and the test cases to validate the functionality, right?
Yes.
So what is the use of using the DTD, and is that required for every project?
I'll let you know how, once I write a sample test case, then you will understand the importance of the DTD file.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now, once this is generated, hold on a minute. So the next step is how we can use this DTD file to write the test cases. To do that, I'm going to use my existing project setup and the test. Okay. and the DAO layer. Okay. So far we have the package, util package, and now because this will be used for only DAO layer, I'm going to create a DAO package. Conduct .dao. So I'm creating the DAO package. Here I'm going to create a class abstract test case DAO. Okay.
We already have the same package in main
But
Java.
the main package, I mean that
Yeah.
is main folder is different and test case folders are different.
Okay.
So now I created this test case DAO. This is a little bit tricky to set up. I'll see how much I can do today. Implement. So because I'm implementing the I operation in listener, that is coming from the DB unit. Automatically, these three methods needs to be overwritten. So these are all the methods. Definitions are coming from I operational listener. Now, so I'm going to copy all this because pretty much every application. This is a generic file. I mean, whatever. I mean, you need to write this, but this is one-time setup. Let's see what I can do here. I'll explain, each one in this file. Not so much of I'm importing everything. Create transaction. Construct. Okay, one more error in this. Cannot convert from. Oh, give me a minute. My charger is gone. MySQL connection. MySQL DB connection. Somewhere I might have the wrong database connection. Java SQL. Okay, so I'll explain you each one in this. So let's start with the first steps in this file. This is also not on.xml. Okay. Some other dependency I need it for test cases. Yeah. So to work with the Spring JUnit test cases, we need to have one more dependency, Spring Test module to be added, just like the other modules you see here, right? Parent web. So similarly, I'm adding one more, Spring Boot starter test. So this will have, Spring support for running the JUnit test cases. Now you can see. So I am trying to do run with. Let's run all the. What? Transactional Spring Boot. We don't have prior application configured. We should have that. What is the other one I did? Yeah. Active profile. These are all the different imports. I mean, you see, right? Whenever I'm doing each one, they're all in conflict. You will see, the imports are getting added on the top. So now, the meaning of line number 31. So run with Spring JUnit 4 class runner, meaning whenever you write test cases, we will end up, this is an abstract class. So this, you cannot execute anything with abstract classes. So we will write our own test class, which will extend the generic class. The generic class will have all the configuration required to execute database level test cases. So here I am adding the run with Spring JUnit runner and then make it transactional and use Spring Boot test with whatever the application configuration. We already have this application configuration, right? So the test cases will also use same of this. And then an active profile, I'm setting up a test profile separately from the, you have the application dot properties, right? Similarly, we will have application test dot properties. So that is somewhere should be the main resources. Yeah, something like this. So now I'm going to create a separate profile, meaning to execute test cases, use a different profile, and execute mainline code, use a different profile. So that way you can separate out, test schema from main schema. So now let me copy this file here. Application -test. See, whatever the name that you're giving here, this name should exactly match with this name. So application is by default figured out by Spring Framework. Whatever the name you're giving profile test, this should exactly match after the hyphen here. So now I'm configuring the, just like the application configuration, nothing is different. Same thing. I mean, there is no difference here. If you see here, everything is same. The only what I did not configure JSP because I don't need the JSP configuration to execute database level test cases. So apart from that, no difference. So now here, you see here, I'm changing it to main application.properties has full stack. But now to execute the test cases, I am pointing it to test schema. That's the only difference. Rest of all, same. So now, when you are executing a test case, which will be picked up by this line, application -test properties file will be picked up. Now you see here, session factory, transaction manager, and a lot of beans are created. So where is these beans? We don't have these all beans. We have to create ourselves. So to do that, I created a separate file. Test somewhere I should have the file. like this one. Yeah, this is a little bit complicated. You will take 1 or 2 days to understand the whole thing. Okay, I'll create here only. In the DAO layer itself, I'm going to create new. Oh. I'm creating a new class, test configuration. How do you want to configure to execute test cases? Here, this is a configuration file. This will be used by the Spring test cases. So now when I say configuration file and test configuration, and in the abstract test case, you see here, what is the context configuration that you want to do? I mentioned test configuration.class file. So whatever we define in test configuration will be available for this class. So that's the purpose of configuration. Now, in the configuration, this is one more line. What it does is, when I say component scan, whenever the test case will be executed, it will take only these 2 things. So here, in the main line, where did we create? So com prio hire DAO. So that's all. There is no boot. So all my DAO layer will be configured under this package, com prio hire DAO, and all my model classes, meaning entity classes, where the entity classes are com prio hire model. So now, whenever the test configuration is done, it will go through only these entities and DAO layer, because we are specifically writing test cases for the DAO layer. We don't need to worry about the rest of the packages. That's the meaning of component scan. Now, in the configuration, I am creating all these beans to work with the test database. So now you see here, I am doing AutoWire Java.SQL data source. So here I'm creating a data source object and entity manager factory object. This is all whatever I'm explaining is only one-time setup during the whole project. So now I'm saying configure to whatever the schema. This is full stack test. And then create a session factory. What does this mean? Meaning whenever the test case is executing, it will create the session factory with the database connection, and also it will also create database DB unit tester object. This is required. So now whatever we configured here, how many objects beans we configured? Database tester and session factory. So now when you are executing a test case, these 2 beans will be available based on this test configuration. So now let's go back to abstract test DAO, and that is generic test class that we are creating. So now you see here, whenever I do AutoWire database tester, whatever is configured in the test configuration, this object will be returned, because I am auto-wiring that bean. So when the Spring starts the test cases, what it will do is, first it will come and configure all these beans, meaning it will create all the beans ready. Once the beans are ready, it will go to the class and auto-wiring the same beans here. So now I'm configuring this, and then connection received. It's a pretty straightforward this is a standard way of writing, setting up. How do you want to handle MySQL data sources? And these are all APIs you need to go through. And now here, this one is most important. From the database tester, I am getting the SQL connection object from the database. I mean, meaning Spring will connect to the test schema, and it will give you connection object and setup. So I am not doing any setup here. Whatever the test case that you are writing, you need to set up what you want. I mean, we will go to that stage eventually. And so now, don't worry too much about this. You eventually learn what is the purpose of each method here. I mean, I want to confuse. I mean, you might be already confused. I don't want to confuse you more. Now let's look at. Let's see what is that. I'll create one more XML object. Oh, I created a new file. Rename, very good name. I'm doing something separate. Don't worry about. Don't ignore this for now. I'll explain you once you understand how to write a test case. For now, just ignore this. I'll give you multiple classes on the Unit setup because this is pretty complicated stuff. So, data. Just bear with me a couple more minutes. I'll write a simple test case. Okay. See, I missed one more dependency. Oh. No. What the hell? Yeah, okay. Now come back to okay. I'm trying to executing a simple test case and see how that works, and I can explain it properly. No such table. It is there. Is there properly? Yeah, user address is there. And application, the test property is pointing to full stack test. Correct. Test configuration. Something is wrong. No, it is there. It is going to full stack test. Somewhere it is going to full stack then test. Why? Full stack test, full stack test. It is pointing to the main schema. What? Application hyphen test properties. Don't know what is going wrong. So let's do one thing. I can troubleshoot this. I'll set up the test cases. I'll explain you tomorrow. I think I might be making a minor mistake. So for now, for tomorrow, just practice only until the DTD generation. Tomorrow I'll explain you how to deal with writing a test case using the DTD. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And
I'll stop here. I mean, it'll take some more time to troubleshoot this.
okay.
So, I'll cover the whole thing again until DTD. Practice tomorrow how to set up the test schema and how to generate the DTD. Until that part, practice it. And rest of the thing I'll cover again tomorrow.
Okay. And before we start looking into this video tomorrow, do you want